First, just a little bit about myself. My name is Jared Pulse. I've been doing paid search for 8 years now across 3 different agencies. I worked in a bunch of different verticals. Started out in automotive, and then I've done everything now in the last couple of years from medical to restaurants to entrepreneurial stuff to big companies to little companies. I've run ads in other languages that I don't speak. I've run ads with currencies I don't spend, and everything in between. So just know that every single one of these slides has like an hour-long story that's full of strange anecdotes that would take the rest of today. So I'm going to spare you all the funny stories. But if you want some funny stories, I have lots of funny stories about some pretty unique clients. A couple of fun things to know about me. I have a wife, I have 3 daughters. We have 1 more on the way. We're not sure if it's a boy or a girl yet. We're very excited, so stay in tune on that. And then a few other fun things about me. I do enjoy cooking and baking when I do get a few minutes of free time and I'm not hanging out with my kids. I have a lot of cats. I have 6 cats. I won't give you all their names, but I do have a lot of cats. So I love me some cats. I love to cook. I love to bake. I like to try cuisine from all over the world. And I'm also a war gamer. If you don't know what a war gamer is, that means my favorite board games tend to take 8 to 12 hours. So that's my idea of a fun afternoon, is like a 12-hour board game. You might notice that a little in my presentation here. I really, really like strategy. So that's just a little bit about myself. Like I said, my goal for today, we're going to be looking at what is a good methodology for developing, for testing, for implementing unusual strategies. Not your best practices. What are your unusual strategies? Ways that you can outperform Google's recommendations. If you've ever been in Google Ads, you know that there's a pop-up over here, and a pop-up over here, and a pop-up over here, and another one over here, and Google's recommending and recommending, and then you get an email and a phone call from your Google rep, and they're making you recommendations. You're always getting these recommendations. And you always have to ask that question, are these good recommendations? So we're going to be talking about how do you build a strategy that's not just doing whatever Google recommends to you? So there's automated strategies. If you've listened to the Google I.O.s or read your emails from Google, they're always talking about Performance Max, this new great placement bidding model, and the smart bidding models, these great new ways that they can do the bidding for you, and you don't need to set your own bids anymore. And so the premise here is I believe I've found ways to outperform Performance Max and outsmart smart bidding. I'm going to walk you through exactly what does that mean. Google tends to be very one-size-fits-all, and I found that niche strategies, really unconventional strategies, really shine more than ever. I said, I've been doing this 8 years. The last year has been the most fun year of search. Search is getting more fun, it's getting more profitable, it's getting more exciting, because Google's trying to get everybody homogenized. And so if you're willing to take some risks, kind of get a little crazy, you can do some really crazy good things for your clients and really get them excited about paid search. So that's where we're going. Current landscape. Let's kind of start really high and then we'll zoom in. The first thing to note, currently there's 8.5 billion Google searches. That's 5.9 million searches a minute. If you're wondering if Google is a place you need to be focused, yes. Are your customers on Google? Yes. Everyone's on Google. Google is a great place to go in terms of, is it valuable to advertise? There's a few niche industries where it might not be the best tool, but in terms of lead capture, Google paid search is still one of the best ways to rapidly get results. That said, as I alluded to earlier, you have to ask the question, can you trust Google's recommendations? So the platform's great. We're not going to debate that. That's a given. But are the recommendations in the platform? Are there reps recommending stuff that's really in your best interest? And what I want to help train you is to have that critical eye of listening to what they're saying and then asking the question, is this a good recommendation for me or is it just a good recommendation for Google? And so that's the question we're going to be asking over and over again. It'll be kind of the beginning of our methodology here. Can we trust Google to be accurate about how Google works? So let's start now talking about human strategies, what we've done in the past. Used to be, when you started out in search, you always had to build manual campaigns. You had to manually set the bids, manually set the keywords, handwrite every single ad. And so everything was done manually. And how we developed our strategies as paid search experts was we did testing, we did research, and that eventually turned into what's called a best practice. You know, this is what the standard is, and then it would go up on the blogs and the YouTubers, and Google would put it in their documentation. And this is the best practices. If there's one thing I want to encourage you with, best practices get you to average. Why? Because your competitors are also using best practices. Everybody's using best practices, so if all you do is best practices, you're never going to get past average. Anybody here like being average? No one? No one wants to be average. Anybody have clients that want an average campaign? This doesn't shine at all. Anybody got clients? They want to be the best, right? Everybody wants to be best in class. Anybody here want to be best in class, have the best strategy, absolutely rock your client's world, never churn a client? All right. In order to do that, to get to best in class, you need a secret sauce. You need something special, just that little extra something that pushes you over the edge. And so what is a secret sauce? A secret sauce could be anything. It could be a tool, a technique, a bidding strategy, a setup strategy. It could be anything. But most importantly, it can't be something your competitors are also doing, because then it's just best practice. And it can't be something that's box standard recommended by Google, because your competitors are definitely already trying that too. And so you need something that's not just, I clicked all the buttons, I'm in 100% compliance with Google, and I'm doing the normal stuff that everybody else is doing. Because if you're doing what everybody else is doing, are you best in class or are you average? Average. You're average. And so you need a secret sauce. And so here we have a picture of secret sauce. If anybody knows what goes into secret sauce, though, it's not some magical ingredient from the Himalayas. What's in secret sauce? Does anybody know?
No secret.
It's mayonnaise, barbecue sauce, mustard, ketchup. It's the basic fundamentals put together in a really fun, delicious way. And so secret sauce is just a combination of everyday ingredients in just the right combination to make your Chick-fil-A sauce or your cane sauce. Maybe there's a little paprika in there. Paprika is not an exotic ingredient. So a secret sauce doesn't have to be something completely wacky, but it does have to be something that's your unique formula that's really going to drive your performance. And so these secret sauces always begin to A/B test. You try and find something that's just a little bit different, a little bit out there. So that's what I'm proposing. Google's recommendations, though, have changed over the years, and I want to walk you through what the Google ideal campaign is. If you go 100%, click every single box, hit every single application, what does the Google's perfect campaign setup look like? These are all things that I've seen recommended a dozen times. Uncap your budgets. You ever see that pop up? Uncap your budgets. Just open up your credit card to us. Let us spend all your money. We'll get you all the leads, right? That sounds great, right? Automatic addition of keywords. Google will add the keywords for you. You don't need to do keyword research. We'll put some keywords in there for you. Broad keywords only. Don't restrict us with phrase and exact. Just open the keywords up. Automate the bidding. Get on smart bidding. Now you don't even have to set numbers. You don't even want to look at numbers, right? And then the Gemini will now write your ad copy. It'll read your website and find some words on there and shove some words. There's words on your website, right? They're good words. Make some ad copy and AI. You know, as we just heard in the previous session, I want to check and see what the AI is writing. I've seen some really bad AI. And then, of course, my favorite one now is the Performance Max campaigns, which change up the placements. So what if instead of showing your search ads on search, we make it into a display ad, or put it in Gmail, or we throw it over here into the Google Discovery queue? You don't even know where the placement it is anymore. So the optimal Google campaign, 100% compliance, can spend all your money whenever they want, whatever they want, with zero restrictions. Does anybody think that sounds like a great idea? Could anybody want to do that? If this was a casino, I asked Gemini to show me the Google casino. It got this kind of grim-looking casino. If it was a casino and you walked in and they're like, you don't even get to decide how much money, just give us your bank account and we'll tell you if you won or lost. Anybody want to gamble there? No. And so this is what Google recommends. These are the pop-ups you're going to see every single day if you're in Google Ads. And so we've got to have some better strategy than just trust the system. And so, what is Google's automated system? What are they recommending that's better than their recommendations? Well, this Performance Max, the smart bidding. What is their secret sauce? I asked Gemini to show me what a robot secret sauce is. So you have evil-looking peanut butter right here. I think the human-made sauce looked a little better, right? So yeah, we got evil peanut butter. Google has a lot of stuff that they don't like to talk about baked into search. Probably the most important one, they have access to everybody's search history. And that includes your incognito mode. We've seen in the last year, incognito mode didn't actually mean anything. Google knows every search you've ever done. They know where you are. They know who you were with when you did the search. And they know your by IP address who you're sitting with. Google knows right now you're here with a bunch of other marketers and that you clicked on the status search website at some point in the last 6 months, and they know exactly how you're moving around. So Google's tracking this stuff. And they use it to do modeling. And if you talk to your Google reps and you're nice to them, sometimes they'll show you these models. They're amazing. Definitely sweet talk your Google reps until they show you this stuff. Because Google knows exactly the number of clicks, the number of display ads on average that every search journey takes. From should I buy a car to I am buying a car. From should I buy a house to I'm buying a house. To I'm hungry, I want this hamburger for lunch. Google knows the exact time frames, average number of clicks, average number of retargeting ads, all of that stuff, Google's documented. And so they built this into their smart bidding models. It's a really powerful tool. They're comparing your data to your competitors' data and then using that to boost both of your campaigns. Google's number one goal is scalability. They want to grow and make more money. If Google can get you to increase your campaign, then they get more money. And that's Google's primary goal, to make money by getting you to scale things up. And so Google has all of these behind-the-scenes tools, but if they talk about them, they keep getting sued. And as we saw from the previous talk, they do get sued a lot. So this is what Google's actually using. We have to admit, there's some massive advantages. There's some smart bidding stuff that works really, really well because Google's got stuff that they can't really show us. But there's some downsides. Have you had a Google rep tell you how many thousands of dollars you need to start a smart bidding campaign or max conversions campaign or performance max? It's never a small number. It's always in the thousands and thousands of dollars. And then they always hit you with this one. It needs to go into learning mode. So don't look at results for 2 weeks. Don't notice the $500 cost per clicks. Don't notice all the stuff we're doing. Don't notice the irrelevant searches. Just let us brute force it until we get some results. Does anybody here have a client who's okay with a half a month with no results? Yeah, me neither. I've never met one. But according to Google, we all do. So there's a huge risk in testing PMax and smart bidding models. They really want our first-party data. I'm sure everyone who's talked to Google has heard, hey, could you just import all your first-party data? We really like that data so we can build on it. And sometimes the models just suddenly decay. Suddenly they just stop working. So Google wants all the money, they want all the data, but they don't want the responsibility. If you've ever tried to get a refund from Google, you know this is true. Good way to think about it, good way to summarize Performance Max. If your client is business to consumer, they've got a high volume of sales, there's lots of sales data, there's lots of touch points, they've got a medium funnel where there's a decent amount of search, the product is visually appealing, and there's pretty good profit margins, they can tolerate that 15-day learning period, 14-day learning period. Performance Max might be the right solution. If it's gonna work for somebody, I'm guessing maybe high-end watches might work. But if you're anything else, if you're business to business, if you're a spontaneous purchase or a long purchase, or where are my healthcare friends, right? You guys ready to give Google all your customers' data, first-party data? Yeah, it's not going to happen. Then a lot of their new, flashy, fancy models are just not going to work. So, what is the real problem, though? And I think this is one of the most important things to remember. Google's models, Performance Max, and especially some of their smart bidding, have two biases. They are biased to make money for Google first, before the client, and they're biased for scalability. This is why they want broad keywords. This is why they want automatic keyword additions. They want to continually scale you up. Because when you see, we've learned over the years, low impression share, that means we need to add budget. And if Google can keep pushing impression share down and getting people to add budget, and pushing impression share down and getting to add budget, Google makes more money. And so this is baked into all of their models. Now, I as a human being can spot biases. You as a human being can spot biases. And if the AI, which is barely an AI, it's mostly just algorithms, let's be honest. Google likes to put fancy names and stuff. If it's biased and we can spot the bias, who has the advantage, the humans or the machine learning? Humans. We have the ability to build funky, crazy strategies that can outsmart the machine learning. Because the machine learning is mostly concerned with scaling up rapidly with Google. And we know our clients, right? We've talked to our clients, we know their needs, we know how to build what they actually want. So, final piece of the puzzle. This is where it gets really fun. We've looked at the whole market, what Google's recommending, how the tools work, the traditional way of doing strategies. As Chris alluded to, there's been some big changes in the last 2 years. And Google's not talked about these very much. And I think they should have. A couple big ones for you to be up to date on. First off, ad copy changed. It's all responsive search ads. No one is writing their own ads for Google anymore. Google requires what I call a bucket of Legos. You give them up to 15 headlines, 4 descriptions, and then a bunch of other pieces, and then Google will build a little ad for you and put it out. But you don't build your own ads anymore. The ad copy is all built by Google from the pieces you give them. You give them ad pieces, not full ads anymore. Next one is they got rid of their aggressive bidding models. This is going to come back later, some foreshadowing here. Basically, Google does not want you to spend your budget out as fast as possible. They want to rotate everyone's ads throughout the day. So if you've ever had your customer call and say, why? I'm searching for myself and I don't see my own ads. This is why. Google disabled that feature years ago. Your ads are going to rotate with your competitors' ads, and everybody's just supposed to take turns. They're going to still, drive cost per click up, but they want you to take turns. Next one we have here, keyword definitions changed. This is fun because it only changed for the positive keywords, not the negative. Foreshadowing here. So they got rid of broad modified. What they really did is exact is now phrase, phrase is now broad modified. Broad modified's gone, and then broad has just gotten broader somehow. And so there's no such thing as an exact keyword anymore. It still takes into what they call close variants, these intention-based keywords. And this is where we can start having some fun with it. You'll see this in a minute here. Basically, Google wants to match keywords up with the intention, not the verbiage. And it used to just be synonyms, right? Okay, so they're looking for a vehicle and car, kind of the same thing. Now it's across the board. They can match up restaurant to names of restaurants. They can match up one restaurant to another restaurant. They can say, oh, you're looking for McDonald's? Well, McDonald's serves burgers and so does Burger King, so maybe you were looking for Burger King. And they can make these wild jumps. Go read your search term report. There's some wild jumps going on, and they're always marked close variants. I think we were about that. And it doesn't matter if it's phrase or broad, there's close variants going on right now. And every single one of these changes leaves big opportunities for us to come in and make some fun strategies. So, best practices are not enough. Automation's got a biasing. What do we need to do? We got to think outside the box. Who here has ever been told to think outside the box and then been given no further instructions? You ever had that? It drives me crazy. Like, all right, I want you to go think outside the box. What do you want me to do? Well, just get outside the box. Okay, I'll get that done. So I'm going to give you at least 12 examples of thinking outside the box. I want to show you my methodology. This is all things that have worked for a client in the last 4 years across many different verticals, many different requirements. None of these are best practice. None of these are standardized. None of these are going to work for everybody. These are all edge case, niche cases, ways that I found to make things work better than what we were supposed to do according to Google. And so I want you to see from the methodology, what I do is I look at all of the tools available, all the tabs, all the columns, all of the different settings I can change. And I ask myself a very simple question. What would happen if I pushed this button? What would happen if I didn't do it? What would happen if I did do it? What would happen if we changed this number? We made this number really big, we made this number really small. And you just begin to ask these questions over and over again in the different menus and say, wait a second. Google says I'm supposed to do this, and I've been always told I'm supposed to do this, but what if I didn't? What if we just get a little crazy here? And so this is how I've begun to come up with these strategies, and every single one of them has worked for different people in different situations, but because of specific circumstances. So there is massive opportunity right now, especially as a lot of companies have moved to just the Performance Max model or the Smart Bidding model. They're doing what Google's telling them to do. And so if you're doing something different and they're just doing average, you have a lot easier to get to best in class. So let's look through some examples. There's going to be a lot of them, But I hope, just as you see all of these examples, it encourages you to get those wheels turning, start thinking, well, what's going on in my dashboards that I've not played with enough yet, or that I've not tested enough yet? I want this to inspire every one of you to go home and go to your client's portfolio and look and say, what have I not been brave enough to mess around with yet or to try out yet? Because there's all kinds of fun stuff you can find. So let's start off with an oldie but a goodie, the SCAG. The SCAG is a single keyword ad group. This one's old, this one has been around for a while. Basically, if you're trying to get a Google campaign to do something and Google keeps doing the wrong thing, you have one campaign with one budget, one ad group, one keyword. Force Google to all right, just put it in this keyword. This is amazing for building quality control and testing. All right, what does just this one keyword do? If I strip it back to one ad, one keyword, what is our baseline performance? And then now I have something to measure above and below it. So, some benefits to that. Another one, I wanted to dispel a myth. Who here has heard that that if you have two identical campaigns, you bid against yourself? You've heard that? That's not true. You can absolutely have duplicate campaigns. Google's not set up for it, and you're going to get little red flag messages of, hey, you're duplicating your keywords. But you can absolutely run two identical campaigns next to each other. Ideally, you're tweaking something, there's something different, but you can run near identical keywords. You can run duplicate keywords, and you're not going to get a suspension for that. So you can absolutely begin to play with fragmenting out some campaigns. So let's talk about a fun one then. Competitor campaigns. Now, best practices for a long time have been that you need to kind of quarantine off competitor terms. So your client gives you a list of their competitors, you bid on those, you put them in a separate quarantine campaign with a capped budget because you know you're not going to get good results. Google's going to look at it to give you a bad relevancy score and then drive your cost per click to the roof, right? I propose to you, especially with the close variants, especially with all this stuff that's been changing and moving in the definitions, try putting your competitor campaigns in your normal non-brand campaigns. You don't have to quarantine off competitor terms. It made sense 5 years ago, but there's no real reason to do it today because of close variants. Try it with your own risk. Probably there's going to be better keywords, but if you've got a client who really wants to bid on a competitor's name, it doesn't need to go in the quarantine campaign. You can put it in your main regular campaign. A couple more fun things before we move on to competitors. Ask your client who their competitors are. Then pull your auction insights and figure out who Google thinks the competitors are. Compare those two lists and figure out who's doing all of the work to generate leads and then not actually doing lead capture on Google. There's a good chance there's a bunch of poor, sad, lonely leads out there that are not being captured by Google, and you can just shepherd them over to your client's website instead. And so I recommend, don't just assume you know who the competitors are, ask them who they think their competitors are, and then start comparing the lists and look for discrepancies. Another one that's really fun. Look for bad reviews on your competitors. Some of the previous talks have talked about this. If your client's competitors have a bunch of bad reviews, they have terrible customer service, your ad copy, if it's going from close variants to show up next to their GMB, should probably say something about how amazing your customer service is, right? If you're going to be showing ads because of close variants next to your competitor's GMB, and you got the big 2-star Google review right there that says they're terrible, you need to have something that explains why you're better than them. It's a perfect setup to build some really good competitor campaigns. So, moving on here to ad copy. Ad copy is one of the places I think we have a lot of bias. There's a lot of people in the room who write copy. I'm sure we're all amazing at it. But one of the things I have to constantly remind myself of is I talk the way I talk, not the way my clients' customers talk. And so I recommend, try something that doesn't sound right to you that might sound right to somebody else. So test tone of voice. Try an ad that's really casual. Try an ad that's really warm. And one of my favorite ones, try being a little bit vague. You get 30 characters in a headline and 90 in a description. You can't fit everything in there. I ran into this a lot with automotive dealers. Dealerships want to shove every piece of their specials into their ad copy. They try to cram them full of, $7,000 off of MSRP, come get the Ford One F50, and then have all the other little numbers after it, and it doesn't fit. And they would always be asking, Jared, can you put all of my specials in my ad? And I'd say, I can, but so can your competitor. And if you say $7,000 off, your competitor says $8,000 off, guess who's never going to get clicked on? But if your competitor says $8,000 off and you say best deals in town, or you say something like lowest price, or you say we beat all competitors if they really do, you're going to get a lot more clicks. Sometimes being a little big and mysterious can be the way to just drive a little bit more clicks. And saying exactly what the special or the discount is can actually come back and hurt you. So watch your bias, especially when it comes to tone of voice. Always be A/B testing ad copy. I think you guys are probably pretty good at that. Landing pages is the same. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I know we got a lot of SEO people here. You guys know what a good landing page is, right? Everybody knows what a good landing page is. All I want to encourage you is with this. For tracking reasons, we often like to separate SEM and SEO. You get your tracking page, and I get mine, because then it makes our data tracking easier. We can be friends and share, and it works great, because SEM tends to drive a lot of early traffic and get a lot more clout to the SEO pages, and SEO optimizations get a better quality score for SEO. So don't be afraid to partner up SEM and SEO, do a collab together, and run some ads to some SEO landing pages. It does beautiful, beautiful things. We were meant to be together. So, team up with your SEM team if you're SEO. Team up with your SEO if you're SEM, right? Try that out? All right, good. Whatever you do, don't build a different landing page for every single channel. There's enough scams out there. If every time a customer goes to a website it looks completely different, they're going to start thinking it's a scam. And so, if you can't put everybody in the same place, at least make sure they're consistent. Don't banish people to the twilight zone. All right. Let's talk about keyword lists. Actually, let's have a moment of silence for keyword lists. All right, that's long enough. I hate a keyword list. So, when I started advertising 8 years ago, over 8 years now, the very first assignment I was given was come up with a keyword list. Give me 50 unique ways to say, buy a car. So you write, buy a car, buy cars, I need to buy a car now, buy a truck, buy trucks, 50 of these. And then, okay, now let's do it again with trucks. Oh no, I put trucks on the first list, I gotta break that out and add more. This is how we did advertising 8 years ago. Google got rid of it, and I'm so glad they did. Nowadays, you only need 2 or 3 keywords and you are good. If you put 100 keywords into an ad group, Google will ignore 97 of them. And they will be 0 impressions, 0 everything, and they will never get noticed. Google does not want that. In fact, they have an automatic setting that unless you turn it off, they will delete your keyword list for wasting time. After a year, I think they'll give you a year to be like, okay, you should have got rid of that. We're going to delete that now. So, keyword lists are dead. These big, long lists, you don't do synonyms. It always cracks me up when people put common misspellings. You never needed to do that. Some people did it anyways. It's kind of silly. But there are some fun things you can do now, as I hinted at earlier, with the match types. And so the phrase, companies that do X, will now match to every company that does X. You can build a competitor campaign, not by bidding on names, but by bidding on what they do. So if you wanted to bid on every single hamburger restaurant in all of Texas, that's a lot of keywords, right? But if you bid on restaurants that serve hamburgers in Texas, Google's smart enough to figure out who those people are. Now you're not showing up against McDonald's and Jack in the Box and Whataburger, but you're also now showing against some guy named Joe who sells hamburgers in Austin. Everyone's in there. You got the entire keyword list down to 1 keyword. And you can now, and you're not bidding on their name, so there's no reason to raise your cost per click, right? You're bidding on something you also do. So you're relevant, high relevancy score. Go forth and conquest. You can now bid on this stuff and get a positive ROI that was never possible 2 years ago. Read your search terms, figure out what Google is latching onto. If it's good, maybe you add in the keywords, and if it's bad, it's time to negative that stuff out. But unless you're adding negatives by default, you are running ads on your competitor's branding. And I think a lot of people haven't figured that one out yet. So, 2025 is going to be the year that everybody's going to start figuring that out. You're running ads on your competitor's brand name unless you explicitly negative out every single one of them. Because that's how the keyword match types work now. So, negative lists. Negative is still alive and well. Negative out You can sculpt if you want to. This is where you put your positive keywords as negatives in other campaigns. You can do it if you really want. I generally don't. I don't see a lot of value, but I've got friends who swear by it, and if that's your thing, go for it. But definitely you need to be working on negatives. Negatives, you need a big negative list and a small positive list. That is now the right way to run Google. You need more negatives than positives. And close variants really start to play into this because remember, negatives don't have close variants. So I got a fun question for you. Let's come up with a strategy right now. If you bid on your brand name, right? Your Jared's company. You bid on Jared's company, right? Phrase match. And then you negative out Jared's company. We'll say exact match. Or phrase match here. Let's just do phrase match. So Jared's company positive, now Jared's company negative. What are the results of that keyword? A few years ago it would have been nothing, right? Because you put a negative on a positive keyword. You get a flagging message of this keyword can't show, right? You've probably seen that one before. And nothing shows, nothing happens. I've had a couple times where I've done this, and what actually happens now is close variants kick in. So if you run Jared's company, negative Jared's company, the only thing that shows are close variants of Jared's company. So it'll now show you all of my competitors. It creates a competitor competition for you. Now it's probably not the right way to set up a competitor competition. The previous slide was probably the better way. But you can technically run a competitor competition, especially if you do not know who your competitors are. You can just kind of slyly ask Google, hey, what are all of the companies that are me but not me? And Google will start bidding on them for you. It's a very weird strategy. Try this one at your own risk, but it does work, and it's kind of funny. All right, a few more strategies here for you. Misalign your max conversions. As I said earlier, the Google rep will tell you you need $10,000, and you got to set your target cost or your target whatever really, really high. Set it low and see what happens. I've tried this out where I've used a non-recommended budget with a non-recommended target cost per acquisition, and it took a few days for it to perform, but it started performing. So don't be afraid to make all the little pop-ups mad. Put some numbers in that are not supposed to be the right numbers in. You'll be surprised at what you can get. I always say, bring your little grandma into it. You know, the little grandma who likes to negotiate and like haggle over every single vegetable. Have her do your bidding. Let her set your cost per lead and your cost per clicks. You know, bring it in and say, no, I want $2 clicks, not $5 clicks. I want, $200 cost per conversion, not $500 cost per conversion. Try it out, see what happens. If you got to adjust, we have to adjust. But don't just take Google's word for it. And if you want to ask me the question, what is right now the best bidding model? It's mid-capped TCPA, and it's hidden in the portfolio bid settings. If you try to set your bids from the main menu, it's not going to pop up. You have to go to portfolio bids, turn off the budget sharing setting, and then from there you can set target cost per acquisition and you can bid cap. It's really powerful. It's really easy. Right now, I think that's probably the best bidding model that Google's running right now. Because you get the best of both worlds. You get the smart bidding, and you get to be able to tell, hey, don't spend $500 on one click, because that's dumb. You get to have both. You get to have your cake and eat it. And they've said, I'll believe it when I see it, that ECPC is going away. So if ECP really does go away like they say it is, this is probably going to be our best tool, at least for a while. But if you do want to do manual bidding, you can't import your leads because you're in medical or for some other reason, you got to run manual. Try lowering those bids. Try running bids that Google says not to do. Because here's what happens. You look in your option insights and you notice that none of your competitors have a lot of budget. They're all running out. They're all at like 10% impression share. There's a really good chance that if your bids are too low, you'll start spending when they run out of budget. And Google will now be kind of handcuffed into giving you what you want. And you'll suddenly get a whole bunch of clicks, even though you're bidding half of what it takes to get to the top of the page or whatever they're selling. So be willing to try it. It's worth experimenting with it. Like I said, bring that little old granny with you to haggle every single click. One big caution though, when you're launching a brand new account, always start high and then go low. Never try to go low and go high. Little thing called expected click-through rates. You need that when you're starting a campaign because that sets your quality score. So you want, for at least the first week or so, make sure you're getting lots of clicks. It's worth holding your nose and bidding a little bit higher. But then throttle your bids back as much as you possibly can and see what Google's willing to begrudgingly give you and cut into their profit line. Strongly recommend trying this. It's a lot of fun. All right, this one we'll keep this one fast here. Don't build boring geos. I promise you, your clients' customers are not in an even 30-mile geo. And if they give you, their top 5 zip codes, people move around between zip codes. Have you looked at a zip code map? There's some pretty gerrymandered, janky-looking zip codes. Customers are driving in and out of zip codes all the time. So you don't need to have just the top 5 zip codes. Expand out the geo. Try some other areas. Overlap. Put a little bit of modifiers on there. Add some radii. Add some cities. Add some zip codes. Try it a couple different ways. Definitely be A/B testing your geo. It's really easy to set it up when you do the setup initially and then ignore it. Play around with your geos. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do. I'll give you one more bonus tip. If you go into the radii settings, this isn't in the location settings, it's in the radii alternate settings. Every single GMB listing is in there already. You don't have to do any kind of GMB linking. Meaning if you wanted to bid on every single Taco Bell in the United States 5-mile radius, you can say bid to Taco Bell 5-mile radius, and it will go and find every single 5-mile radius around every single Taco Bell. And when one opens up, it will get added, and when one of them closes, it'll get removed. And that's one click. You've got that entire geo, thousands of little circles now, and you set that up in, 2 minutes? There's some really powerful tools hidden in the geo settings that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. So, you sat through all of the regular ideas. This one's my favorite. This is the Jared maneuver. I'm going to give this one to you. You got to promise me you call it the Jared maneuver. I'm naming this one after myself because this one's special. I love this one. I have used this one in multiple verticals for multiple clients. It has worked every time. It is niche. I wish it worked for everything it doesn't. But I'll show you how this thing works. This is my favorite one. So, what you're looking for before you try this. You need a local client, right? Your client's locally based, they've got locations, they're not a big national brand, they're a smaller brand. And they've got a competitor who's getting a little too big for their britches. You look at Auction Insights and you see they're always bidding top of page, they're always trying to outbid us. And your client calls you and says, they always call me like, Jared, why are my competitors' ads always above mine? Well, he has more budget than me. There's only so much I can do about that. You can't give me more money and he has more money. We're stuck, right? Wrong. What you do is you use the Jared maneuver. You break your campaign in half. You have a morning campaign and an afternoon campaign. The morning campaign, you're going to drive your bids way up, and in the afternoon, you're going to drive your bids way down. Because here's what this does to the Google algorithm. In the morning, Google looks at your campaign, and they're gauging how much budget you all have left. But they realize, oh no, your campaign's only going to 11 o'clock. We gotta spend you fast. And so you're gonna get priority because they're gonna try to spend through your budget. They want all your money. And so they're gonna spend, and you're gonna get some leads, and you're gonna drive your competitor's cost per click up even higher. You're gonna be driving his budget up. He's gonna be having to spend to keep up with you. 11 o'clock rolls around, Google spent out your budget. Your competitors spent about your budget trying to keep up with you, and then the afternoon hits. And your second campaign kicks in. And the Google algorithm looks and goes, wait a second, you still have a full day's budget. We've got to get you spending here. We got to get you moving. And your competitor, well, he's already 60, 70% out of budget. He can take a turn. Let's let him sit in the queue and let's get your ad showing. And so your ads will show more in the afternoon because you have more percentage of budget to spend. But oh no, all your cost per clicks are really low. We're going to have to give you these really low cost per clicks now. And so your afternoon, you're not spending half as much as the morning, but you're getting a lot more performance and a lot more leads because Google's trying to get all of the budget out of you. They're trying to, give the lemon a good squeeze, and your competitors already mostly spent out because they were fighting you all morning and they're already tired. And so you brought 2 guys to the boxing match and they only had 1. And so Google prioritizes you in the morning and prioritizes in the afternoon. And I've turned this on for clients. And within 24 hours, their number of daily leads jumped. Just instantly gotten more leads because this competitor who thought he had bigger budgets and bigger cost per clicks and could keep the fight going was accidentally setting them up for my success. They didn't see it coming. So, if you're able to use this, it works great. Fortunately, it doesn't work if you're trying to take down, Apple or McDonald's or national brands. But if you're able to exhaust your competitors' budgets a little bit and kind of help your local competitors fight, this is a really, really fun strategy. I've had a lot of great success with this, and in terms of, I can't give you more budget, but can you give me more leads? If this is true, I absolutely can use your leads. So this one's a lot of fun. A couple more just general tips and tricks. Test Bing, don't just import Bing, actually test it. There's a lot you can do there. Use the Google Ads Editor. There's a few settings that Google hides for some reason, especially if you're in the baby's first campaign wizard. Never use that. Like, you literally can't get all of the good settings. Never mess with Google's wizard. Use Google Ads Editor to build. Their offline tool was built by engineers who worked on this stuff. It's really good. Learn Google Ads Editor, it's way better. Like I said from the beginning, be nice to your Google reps. They can give you some insights. Sometimes your Google reps will tell you that all of your competitors are on Performance Max to try to talk you into Performance Max. And all they're telling you is that all your competitors are sleeping at the wheel, and you can absolutely take advantage of that. Sometimes you can use their sales tactics a little bit against them. It's kind of fun. That's one of my favorite things. But yeah, if they've got insights, if they got industry insights, if they want to show you that conversion path, it's great stuff. But when they start recommending, why don't you give us a limited budget? Why don't you auto-apply all the keywords we recommend? Say thank you politely and then decline because it's an awful idea. And it will make Google money and it will hurt your client. And then you'll lose your client because you made that recommendation. So, finally, if you're going to test ad copy, make sure you tell your client. This should go without saying, but it happens. If you write a really wacky ad, or you let Google write a really wacky ad, do you know who's going to see it? The CEO's mother. And she's going to screenshot it and send it to him, and then he's going to send it to you and be like, what is this ad? Always let your client know, especially if you're messing with ad copy. So, final cautions, all of these things are very circumstantial. If they work for everything, it would be a best practice, not a secret sauce. But I want to encourage you, develop your own secret sauce. Find something that works for you and your client and no one else. And then they will be your champion. They will never leave you. They will love you for the rest of their life. Beware your biases. You never know what's going to work until you try it. Beware of putting too many tests at the same time. Try 1 or 2 tests at a time so you don't self-sabotage. And then one of the best things you do, make sure you have at least 1 or 2 clients that like to go a little bit crazy, and they'll let you go a little crazy. And if you got 1 or 2 clients that they really don't like risk, don't test stuff on their campaign first. Test it on the other guy and go, hey, I did this amazing test. It works well, I promise. I have proven results. Can we try it on your account too? Then you let those guys try. But always, if you can, if it's ever possible, have at least 1 client who's like, you know what, you want to try crazy? You go for it, see if you can drive it. Those are always the guys that I find ways to just absolutely hack their profitability and whatever it is. So, have a lot of fun with it. That's everything I've got. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
I saw in your last slide you said be wary of bid modifiers.
Yes.
I'd love to get some detail on it.
Absolutely. So if you do a 30% bid modifier for device, for customer, so male or female, you do a bid modifier for, we want people who have this income. Then you do a bid modifier, we want people in this location. Then we do a bid modifier because we want to bid on, the noon hour because it's our best hour, right? And it's 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10. It's not 10 plus, it's times. And before you know it, you think you're bidding $5 and you're actually bidding $500 because you bid modified. So whatever you do, don't put 50% bid increase, 50%. I've inherited accounts that had that set up, and then you look at the cost per click setting versus what it actually was, and it's egregious. It's like it was set to $5, but they were averaging cost per click of like $300 because they overbid modified everything. So it's like don't keep dumping salt in the soup. Yes.
What would you apply to Google when they push you to go from a smart bidding program to a value-based bidding program?
You really have to take it client by client. Will it work for the client? Do they have the data set? Are they okay giving Google the data set? Because if you give all of your client data to Google, they're going to share it not just with the client, but with the client's competitors. And so, ironically, if your client is the biggest and best in the industry, they're already number 1, You absolutely don't want to share that data because that's the biggest chunk of data that Google needs to help their competitors out. But if your client is like the new guy, the upstart, and he doesn't have that much client data to begin with, it might be worth sharing it just to see if we can kind of expand that list out. But it's very case by case. You got to think, is this good for the client or is it good for Google? This goes with enhanced lead conversion or whatever their newest jargon is. Is it helping Google? Is it helping me and my client? Because Google didn't sign my check, my client does. Other questions? Yes.
So let's say you have a client, $3,000 budget.
All right.
Maybe that's split thing. So are you using $2,000 just for the morning and then $1,000 in the afternoon and just more focus?
Not necessarily, not necessarily. Like you can play with it, like play around with it, see how good those morning leads really are. Certain industries tend to convert really well in the morning because a lot of people are making the calls like, oh, I need to make sure I do this after I get off work today, so I'm gonna make a call at 7 in the morning so I can schedule my appointment. A lot of appointment scheduling stuff like that. Other stuff tends to be more heavily researched in the afternoon, and so you want to have a smaller budget in the morning just to kind of cover your bases and drive out their budgets. But you're really saving more bang for your own buck for the afternoon, because you know those afternoon leads are good. But you're determining it based on the lead quality, not even necessarily the competitors. Great question. Any other questions? All right, well I think that's everything I have. If you have any questions for me, you want to talk about paid search, you want to hear some funny stories, hit me up afterwards. I'm always happy to talk about paid search. Thank you, thank you.
No.